In today's show, Jason Quick of The Athletic joins us to talk about little T tanking becoming big T tanking, the Blazers lost to the Miami Heat, and Jusuf Nurkic's beef with Tyler Herro. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, and now also on YouTube. If you're listening to the show, please go subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. We're still trying to grow our audience there, and I would appreciate your support. In today's show, we're talking about the Blazers' loss to the Miami Heat on Wednesday evening, and we are joined by friend of the program and weekly guest, Jason Quick of The Athletic. Quick, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing all right, Michael.
All right, glad to hear it. You didn't get in any fights with someone at the end of a blowout basketball game last night, did you?
Let me think about it. No, I don't think I did.
You probably wanted to chase me down and shove me a couple times, though, so it's a relatable feeling.
No, yeah, that was probably the most interesting moment of that game last night.
Absolutely. I mean, let's talk about that game a little bit here. We'll talk about sort of the other big picture Blazer stuff a little bit later in the show, but let's start with this game. The Blazers lose last night. I thought they had a better roster by the end of the game. You know, Kyle Lowry was ejected in the final moments of the first half.
Ridiculous ejection, by the way.
Absolutely absurd. The ref ejected him because he didn't catch a pass.
Right. Brutal.
Just nonsense. But I thought after Kyle Lowry got ejected, I thought the Blazers had a better roster and they just lost. They lose 115-109 at home to the Miami Heat. Do you agree that this was kind of like, this was maybe a worse loss than some of the other Blazers' recent ones?
Oh,
I guess worse is maybe the wrong word.
Know. Yeah, I mean, that was certainly a game they could have. I don't know if should have.
Right.
Definitely could have won. I argued, we had this discussion on Press Row during the game. I thought the Blazers had a better roster even at the beginning of the game before Kyle Lowry got ejected. But you thought the pendulum kind of swung after Kyle was ejected. But, there was a couple guys on that Heat lineup that I had never heard of. Their center.
Omar Yurtseven? You're not an Omar Yurtseven guy?
I was not familiar with him. I'm sorry. Good player, though.
Yeah, I mean, he was
impressed.
Played pretty well.
But top to bottom, I thought the Blazers had the better roster.
Yeah.
And yet I think they were down 14 when Kyle got ejected.
Yeah, they were trailed by 19 in the second quarter, and then they kind of made it close. Ant had a big third quarter, but...
and I think it was because Kyle was out.
Absolutely.
Once Kyle got out, Anfernee kind of found his rhythm and was able to operate in space more easily. So that was a big ejection. But yeah, I don't think I think that was a game they could have won. I don't think that they're necessarily disappointed that they lost because, and I'm sure we'll get into this later in the show because I think right now losses probably help this team.
Yeah, I mean, the players don't want to lose.
Yeah, no.
Someone else wants to lose, but I don't think Chauncey Billups is like, hell yeah, 14-23, we're doing it, baby.
Certainly not.
Yeah, but yeah,
I'm talking about like as a fan base.
Totally.
I don't think you're pounding your fists this morning and go, God, we could have had that.
Yeah, I'm pretty resistant to fans rooting for their team to lose, but I get it. Like, I get it. So Kyle Lowry gets ejected, but that wasn't the only fireworks. And with a minute left, 59 seconds left in the game, Jusuf Nurkic sets a screen on Tyler Herro. Tyler Herro takes exception to it, chases Nurk down, shoves him in the back. Nurk kind of 3-finger slaps him in the face.
Yeah.
Do you think Nurk's getting suspended? What do you make of that?
I think he will.
Yeah.
It was a swing, definitely, and it connected. So, it doesn't matter the degree in which it connected. I think he'll get a game. And God, what a sensitive reaction by Herro. I thought that was a legit screen.
Me too. I didn't. If
he's going to be mad, be mad at his teammate for not calling it out better.
Yeah,
it was an overreaction.
I could tell in the moment that, like, as soon as he got hit, that he was pissed. Like, even before he jumped up, I could tell just from his body language that he did not like being hit that hard when the Heat are up 10 with a minute left in the game. But I've watched that play 6 or 8 times. I don't think Nurk hit him in a way that was. I don't think that screen was egregious at all. I think the screen was pretty physical. I don't think that if that's like the inciting incident, I don't think that was. I didn't think that was a big deal, but if someone pushes you in the back, I think it's a fairly normal reaction by Jusuf Nurkic to give him a little flick to the face or a little open hand punch slap. It was
still not the best push from behind in Rose Garden history. That will still be Andre Miller against Blake Griffin.
A legendary moment.
God, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I think that was a full court sprint by Andre Miller.
Oh, yeah.
Decked Blake Griffin, and I think that ended his consecutive game streak.
Yeah, he had the longest consecutive game streak in the last 20 years in the league at the time. Like, it was certainly the longest active one of the longest, and pushing not AC Green or whatever, Portland legend, go Beavs, but it was a notable streak to break, and he broke it because he didn't like the way Blake Griffin was acting. Too many Kia commercials, and Dre had to set him.
No, I think it was the same thing. I think Blake pushed him in the back on a rebound.
Yeah.
And so then Andre retaliated by running full court and decking Blake.
Yeah. Listen, they don't make him like Andre Miller anymore. What a legend. And one of my all-time favorite players. As a pass first point guard, I love Andre Miller. Also, I remember him warming up before games, and he would just shoot little 4-footers. Like, because it's like, what's he going to work on? He wasn't going to shoot outside of that range anyways, and if he was, he's going to shoot flat-footed. So he'd take little 4-footers and then get a little bit warm. He was big on working on his bank shot though too. Right.
He liked working angles. Mm-hmm. He liked working angles and stuff.
Yeah, and
he was such a joy. Yeah, I love talking to him. Yeah, one of my favorite covers.
Yeah, a real legend. Back-to-back games where Anfernee Simons has been good. This seems to be the most important part of the Blazers season from here on out, right? It's like how good Ant is going to be.
Yeah. I was going to tell one of my favorite Andre Miller stories.
Please.
We'll go.
No, please. I want it. Let me do the Anfernee Simons part. Anfernee Simons, back-to-back games, 43 points, 28 points. It's important that he plays well for the Blazers' present and the Blazers' future. The end.
Yeah.
Tell us an Andre Miller story, please.
Oh, it's my favorite Andre Miller story. It was the end of the season. Have I told you this one before?
I think I know what it is, but tell me.
And it's when Patty Mills is on the team. And so we're having exit interviews. And this was when the exit interviews for the Blazers was really informal. And so we're all at the practice facility, and they kind of bring out players as they clean out their locker, and you just sit and chat with them. And Andre was talking to us, and Patty Mills comes up and says his goodbyes to Andre. And he's like, "All right, man, good season, bye-bye. Hey, what are you doing tonight?" And Andre's sitting here signing stuff and whatnot, and he's like, "Probably get high." Andre kind of had that high pitch.
Yeah, voice, exactly. Yeah,
but just very matter of fact. "All right, man, we'll see you, man. Hey, what are you doing tonight?" "Probably get high." I just loved it. So that I always think of Andre when stories about him come up.
Yeah, listen, he's roller skating on the waterfront, eating chicken nuggets all summer long, and smoking weed when he has some downtime. Like, that is a legendary figure, figure. And he almost got Rick Carlisle fired when he scored 52 against the Mavs. That's really, they don't, like I said, they do not make him like Dre anymore. And I did know that story, but it's not mine, so I wasn't going to tell it. but it's one that I love.
But back to Anfernee. I mean, how encouraging is this for him? And I was really curious going to the arena last night to see if he could continue that success, have some consistency. And he answered it. I mean, started slow, but he really came through, and I love his efficiency. I love that he's not only scoring but also getting people involved. I mean, I think he's had 7 assists and 6 assists in those 2 big scoring games. And as Chauncey has noted, it's coming while defenses are throwing different looks at him.
Right.
You know, he got trapped by the Hawks, and then the Heat threw very defenses at him, different looks, and he's handling. It's not perfect, but for a young point guard to be playing the way he is, and it passes the eye test too. These aren't just empty stats. I think it's really, really encouraging for the Blazers, and I think it really is probably helping shape their decisions moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is a guy they can build around.
Yeah, and they got it's so much of what the final 46 games of this season are kind of like figuring out what's next. And I think Anfernee Simons is helping forming what's next by his play. He mentioned after the game, and I thought this was pretty interesting, that he just I feel more comfortable with the ball in my hands. Like I want the ball in my hands. And obviously that's a balance with when Dame is back and whatever, whatever happens with CJ McCollum. I would be surprised if he's on the team next year, but there is something to it that Ant as let him play backup one or even just more of the lead initiator to give him the ball in his hands and let him make decisions, because he can really score off the dribble. He has 14 threes in his last 2 games and 13 assists. That's a dude who you want the ball in his hands because of the scoring, and back-to-back really monster third quarters too.
It's probably been the defining moment, or not moments, defining part of Chauncey Billups' rookie season, is that he has had the confidence in Anfernee to put the ball in his hands and put him in those facilitating roles. Terry Stotts was very reluctant to do that. He kind of had him just drifting around the 3-point line and shooting threes. But Chauncey immediately, when he was hired, said, "This is what I envision for Anfernee. This is what we're going to make Anfernee." And it's turned out to be a great thing. Not a lot has gone well in Chauncey's first season.
Yeah.
But that is probably, one thing you can really point to and go, he has helped Anfernee Simons blossom.
Absolutely.
And I would put Nasir in that category too, but Anfernee on a much grander scale has really, really been able to grow and show what he's capable of.
Yeah, I give credit to Ant for becoming a better ball handler, getting a little stronger. I mean, he needed to. There were some physical things he needed to work on. He's got there, and these 2 games coming on the heels of a really tough December for him, where he just didn't look. He never found it, and they really needed him to. And so it's been an encouraging little run. But a lot about the NBA is opportunity too. Absolutely,
you need to have that role, that opportunity, that confidence, and Chauncey gave that to him.
Yeah. Let's zoom out a little bit, talk big picture stuff to close out the show here in the last couple segments. But first, I want to tell my listeners about Shopify. It is the all-in-one commerce platform that lets you start, run, and grow your business. It gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big businesses. So upstarts and startups and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. Scaling your business is a journey of endless possibilities, and Shopify is there to help you realize those possibilities. You can reach customers online and across social networks with an ever-growing suite of integration and apps. So that's Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more. Find your customers where they are on social media using Shopify. Plus, you'll be able to gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting and conversion rates, profit margins, and beyond. All of the stuff you need to know to make your business from small to big to medium, whatever you're going to do. Shopify is more than a store. It grows with you. This is possibility powered by Shopify. So go to shopify.com/LockedOnNBA. That's all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a free 14-day trial and get a full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/LockedOnNBA right now. That is shopify.com/LockedOnNBA. All right. We're still chopping it up here with Jason Quick, my friend and yours, and a weekly guest here on Locked On Blazers. Talk about the Blazers' loss to the Heat. whatever. Losses don't matter at this point in the season because I think the sort of priorities have changed here. And part of that calculation is Damon Lillard's availability. He has missed the last 2 games and he's going to be reevaluated next week. Jason, is Dame going to come back and play? Like, are we going to see more Dame this year?
I don't think he'll finish the season. I think he's going to end up having the surgery. The big question right now is how soon he elects to do that. Does he, and then this is me just speculating right now, but, does he want to come back and make a run and try to, get another all-star bid?
Right.
Or does he just, mail it in right now and go through with the surgery? But I don't think there's any question he's going to shut it down at some point this season and have the surgery. And I think it falls into the path that the Blazers have now committed to, that we're going to play for the draft pick. And, people say tank, whatever, but I think that's the direction. It's obvious. Everyone can see it, that the Blazers are going to play for the draft pick. And so I think it's a matter right now of getting Dame totally on board, because I think we all know that Dame's a competitor. He loves to play,
right.
wants to play. But I think, the organization is trying to convince him that the best thing long-term for you and for the organization is for you to take care of this now. And that will help us secure a draft pick, a high draft pick, and it will help our path and your future if we do this now.
Yeah, I think the convincing Dame part is the tough needle to thread here. he is defiantly optimistic, I think is the way I've described him in the past. Like, he always believes. He's like, Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with
you. Okay. Yeah, no, he's quite literally dreaming of the parade down Broadway. Like, the dude is just, he is defiantly optimistic, and he always believes they have a chance. And they've had seasons in the past where, they're kind of approaching a tipping point where they haven't come back from being this bad in the past. But like, they've had seasons in the past where they've been, 10
games being under 500 and made the playoffs. Yeah,
exactly.
But there is, without question, a different feel to this year's team. Those teams that came back had young rosters, young guys who had fight to them and who had things to prove and who just weren't getting it. And, as the season went on, they understood things more, and they, kind of developed into their roles. This is a veteran team that has shown that it just doesn't have it.
Right.
It's stale. The fight isn't there, and that's concerning. I think the Blazers organization has seen that and goes, okay, it's time to move on from this. And, we need to do what's smart, because qualifying for the play-in game, 9th seed, 8th seed, 7th seed, that is beneficial if you're a young team like, like the Spurs, or even like Sacramento, a team that hasn't had postseason.
Right, Minnesota,
and experiences Minnesota. That would be huge for them. For a team like the Blazers, it defeats the purpose. It actually almost hurts you, because you're not getting, and especially this year where, they don't have a draft pick if they make the playoffs.
Right.
So the smart thing for them to do is what they're doing, which is playing for the draft pick.
Do you think, like I said this at the beginning of the show, it's like players don't tank. Like, it's like, we talked to Norman Powell after the game. It's like, it wasn't like he's like, yeah, cool, like tight, we lost again. Do you think that takes some convincing? Not like, hey, we need to lose, but with like specifically with Dame, like, hey, here's the bigger picture. Like, do you think that they're gonna need to sort of have that part of the powwow, or part of the, I don't want to use that term, I apologize. Like, part of the sit down is convincing him of 2 years or whatever, the larger picture. Yeah.
I think there's hopes that it could be remedied in 1 year.
Yeah.
That just, being bad this year. I think they envisioned something on the scale of what Golden State did. Probably not
right.
A big of upswing as Golden State has had, just because they have better players.
Yeah, and they had made 5 consecutive championships. It's a different thing.
Yeah. But along those lines, like, okay, our star player takes most of the season off because of injury, comes back, we get a high draft pick, and boom, we're right back where we used to be.
Yeah.
I think that's what the Blazers are for next year, that Dame gets right, comes back, is 100%. They've got a nice new young player and some other players that they acquired through trades, and you're right back in the thick of it.
Yeah, I think it's like,
and I think that's really encouraging for Blazer fans. I think you just need to bite the bullet the rest of the season. Know that Dame's going to get right. Get excited for a high draft pick. Maybe get somebody like a Evan Mobley who, can instantly be make an impact play and play well. And then, see what Joe Cronin can do at the trade deadline. And that can be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Start falling in love with a new group.
I was reminded of this incredible Mike G. Rich line, and I'm going to repeat it here now. Franchises can either sell championships or sell hope. And the Blazers are moving towards selling hope. They have moved off the championship thing. I also think, and we've talked about this in previous episodes when you've been on, it's like a lot of the Blazers' struggles boil down to Dame. This would be an imperfect team. This will probably pretty bad defensive team. Obviously the roster's a little wonky, but like, if Dame was shooting 38% from three and averaging 28 a game or 29 a game, whatever, like 30, they would be right in the thick of the playoff race. So it's not, they're in a situation where they could bounce back relatively quickly. Could they bounce back to sort of like championship level? Like you said, Golden State, no. I don't. That's not what I think they are. But could they bounce back to being a competitive playoff team immediately? Yes, I think that's. I don't think that's out of the question.
Yep.
Let's close the show. I want to talk about the T word. You've mentioned it here. We need to just sort of we need to address the big the T word here. But before we do that, I want to tell my listeners about Bet Online. It's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. We've got the college football championship this weekend. You'll find lines and props and all kinds of bets you can make on that game. We've got the NFL playoffs just a week away. We've got NBA games every single night, plus hockey when the NHL gets rolling. Soccer all over the world. You can bet on combat sports, whatever you want. You can find it on betonline.ag. And while you're there, if you're making your first deposit, make sure you put in the promo code LOCKEDON and you will get a 50% welcome bonus. You'll magically get half of your first deposit matched when you put in that promo code LOCKEDON. So go to betonline.ag. Take advantage of this deal right now. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still listening to Locked On Blazers. Still chatting here with Jason Quick of The Athletic. Jason, right now, I would categorize what the Blazers are doing as little T tanking. They're just losing games because they're not very good. At some point, I anticipate they will shift into more of a big T tanking mode. But some of that has to do with what they do over the next coming weeks. Do you agree that at some point they're going to shift into sort of more, I don't know, like developmental approach to basketball and saying like, maybe not actively trying to lose, but maybe more prioritizing the future over the present?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're almost already there. I think the big, to use your terminology, going from the small T to the big T will be when Dame elects to have surgery.
Right.
And then that will really kind of put it into the next phase. And then you see, a lot of Nasir Little, a lot of Anfernee Simmons. But after that, there's not a lot of young guys to play. I mean, I guess Greg Brown.
Trendon Watford.
But yeah,
a lot of,
so, I think things become really fluid and then you look and see what Joe is able to do at the trade deadline. But this has been, I think, difficult for Joe to kind of jumpstart his remake of the roster because CJ's been hurt.
Right.
No one's going to trade for him when they don't know what his physical status is.
Right.
And then also the league's been just in so much upheaval with 10-day contracts and filling out an active roster that teams aren't really I don't think in trade mode quite yet. So
I think we're getting there. We're getting close. We've seen a couple trades around the league. I think the momentum is starting here about a month from the trade deadline. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see action here in the next few days or weeks.
Right. I'm talking, since Joe took
right.
over.
So, he hasn't had a chance to make a move because who's gonna pick up the phone and say, yeah, let's shake up the roster when you have 7 dudes available and you're signing a bunch of temporary players.
Right. But I do think that they have, I think Joe was really optimistic when he was named early in December that they could keep this thing afloat and that they could get better with a couple moves. But I think that's shifted.
Yeah.
Since, after the season has kind of developed a little bit and aged a little bit, I think they've realized that, okay, something's not right here. This isn't working.
Yeah,
we're going to go the opposite direction.
I mean, the team made the decision for them. Like it's like before Joe could define it, it was like, oh, they're just not very good. Like we'll have to go in this direction, I think. Yeah,
and there's I can't put my finger on it, but there's just something that's not working with this team, chemistry wise, feel wise. It's just not there. The heart has kind of left this team.
Yeah.
And it's puzzling and kind of disheartening.
It is. And I think it's why you need a reset, and they'll change up the roster. Yeah. I have, I think this was something you pointed out a couple months ago, maybe a month ago now. You're a regular guest in this podcast, so I get a little bit confused about when you've been on. But is that you kind of have to trade Robert Covington and Nurk over the next couple weeks because they're entering free agency and the Blazers aren't going to have cap space and blah, 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 blah. That's still got to be the direction, right? Like Cov and Nurk are probably going to be traded before the deadline, almost certainly, right?
I think Cov's the first domino to fall. Yeah. Without question.
Do you think, obviously, so the difference, I guess, sort of the balance here between their goals in the near term and goals in the long term is they need to get value back for Covington. It's they need someone who can help next year or several someones who can help next year, depending on what direction they go. How much of are they balancing sort of this season versus their goals for next October at the trade deadline?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Are they going to go young with these trades, or are they going to try to get vets who can help? Big T versus little T tanking. Are they prioritizing so much let's get another vet who can help immediately in October, or do they say, hey, let's get some young players?
I think they would probably. I think it's hard to say they're going to definitely do this or definitely do that.
Sure,
but I think they would probably lean more toward the younger player. But also, I think they're really thinking about next year and being good next year.
Right.
And so you want to, I don't think they'll be, averse to getting a veteran, proven veteran who's good.
Yeah.
I think they're going to try to get the best player possible in every trade,
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I think the timeline is short. They don't want to win now, but they do want to win next fall. They want to immediately be good next fall. So I think that's kind of what I'm getting at there with the balance. You're not trading for youth and picks. You want help.
Yeah.
Help.
Yep. They want to return to a playoff contender or not a playoff contender. A contender next year.
Yeah, a team that is in the thick of the playoff race, 3, 4, 5, and then can if things break their way, can get where they want to go to the Western Conference Finals and beyond. And that's where they envision themselves this year. And I think that's where I kind of thought they would be, is somewhere in that 5, 6, 7 range with a puncher's chance. And I don't think the roster is so bad that they can't get back there. They've got to figure out some balance with the wings and their forward spots. And I think that's the challenge for Cronin moving forward. But I think a couple tweaks around the margins and they're right back to being a competitive playoff team, assuming Dame is healthy. So I don't think there's too many boxes away, but they're not, they're not swinging for the fences here at the trade deadline.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing is going to be what's he going to do with CJ, Ant, and Norm Powell?
Right.
Can't have three guys there. Even two guys might be a stretch. Keeping two of those three.
Right.
So who stays? They got to figure, okay, well, how much money is Ant going to command in the free agent market?
$20 million probably.
Or what does CJ and Norm bring back?
Right.
And Norm is eligible to be traded January 15th. So that is going to be how Joe Cronin shapes this team, is what he does with those three guards and how this team is going to look after that. Are they going to load up on big men? Are they going to, go for another guard? That is going to be how this, or that is going to be the shaping of this roster,
right,
is what he does with those three guys.
The decisions with CJ and Norm, and that will inform what the decision you make on Ant. I can't imagine that they would move Ant, but maybe if there's a deal out there that they think really helps them, it could happen. Certainly on the table.
And you have to look at who plays best with Dame.
Right.
What's the best complement to Dame? And right now, out of those three, you'd have to say CJ, just because of the body of work, and they do have a really great connection and know when and how to play off each other.
Right.
So we'll see. It'll be really interesting.
They cannot pivot and come back with Dame and CJ again in the fall. I mean, they can do whatever the hell they want, but
they might be forced to.
Right.
They don't get what because from what I understand, they are expecting, if they trade CJ, they want to get a very good player. They hold CJ in very high opinion, and they think that he should get a very good player in return.
Right. I mean, me and you have talked about this. The way the roster is constructed, if you trade CJ, you kind of need to get a guy back who can be your second best player. So they need to ask for a lot because, you can't get back a bunch of dudes who are your sixth and seventh best player and try to build with, role players plus Dame. You could take maybe a step back overall talent wise if the fit is better, but you can't, if this team has goals to be competitive while Damian Lillard is on the roster, they need to trade CJ for a guy who can help immediately and a guy who can arguably be their second best player. That is just, it's just the way it works. That's not an easy thing to do though.
Yeah. I think it's gotten lost a little bit as we've entered this phase of breaking down the Blazers and stuff. I think people forget how good CJ is.
Oh yeah, I've already forgotten. I agree.
He's a pretty good player,
Oh yeah.
He's one of the best shot makers and shot creators in the league, and when he's on, he's pretty unstoppable. So I think the Blazers brass understands that as they go to the trade table. They're not going to get fleeced on CJ because they realize how good a player he is.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see what happens with that because he's averaged 20 a game for 7 seasons or six consecutive seasons. Dude's a bucket, and scoring is really valuable in the league. But what do other teams want from what value do other teams sort of place on CJ's skill set? I think that's a fact.
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah. Is he a $31 million player?
Right.
That's where teams go, oh man.
Yeah.
Because
he definitely has the most, scoring is still the most valuable skill in the league, and he can go do that for you probably on any court you put him on. So, a fascinating next step for what they do. Jason, thanks for joining the show. Appreciate you.
Okay, Michael.
I'm getting you out of here because we're up against it. This is a daily podcast. We don't go super duper long, but you get a half hour of Jason Quick once a week. We'll do it again soon. Go subscribe to The Athletic. Jason's doing great work. He wrote a story this week about Anfernee Simmons, who lost his grandfather this past Sunday. It's just the type of journalism you're not getting anywhere else from anyone else on the Blazers beat. So if you want to stay closer to the team, go subscribe to The Athletic to read Jason's work. Jason will be back next week. maybe the Blazers will have some new players by then. Ooh. Or maybe we'll still be talking about little T tanking. And using my terminology. Jason, appreciate you, man.
All right, we'll see you, Michael.
Listeners, tell your friends about this podcast. Tell them they can get it wherever they get podcasts and also on YouTube. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Tomorrow's show, Tara of the We Have a Take podcast is going to join the show. We're going to talk about all things Blazers. You're not going to want to miss that one. That's 2 interviews this week. How fun. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.